राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रसत रसस्मर शिल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रसत रसस्मर शिल भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद रसत रसस्मर शिल भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपनु गौरी गुरु वार्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गोपाल वृंद की जय। नाम चय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्यामा कुंड की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री हरि अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय What the heck's going on? Sorry, one second, guys. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedus Tang Sarvabhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptashtakamadittaranga Madhe Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Ganga Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Madhavi Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Prajumna Prabhu, Gargaraji, Dandavat Pranam, and Rup Manjari Didi, you're not late. Haven't even started yet. Pradyumna Prabhu Haribol. Yes. Pradyumna Prabhu, yes. The answer is yes. Yogamaya is Subhadramata. Subhadramata is Yogamaya. Yeah. That's a, yeah. I think you'd say Subhadramata is Yogamaya. Yeah. All right. So, we're going to, okay, so yesterday we read, what was it? The duties of a chaste wife, the duties of the mixed classes, and results of occupational duties. I'm just going to read from here, this part right here. So, by serving the Vaishnav husband with love and affection, following the footsteps of Lakshmi, a chaste wife goes to Vaikuntha. And then, duties of the mixed classes and results of occupational duties. One should act as per one's nature and gradually give up those activities. Varna is based on one's qualities, not birth. All right. Actually, these verses are important. I'm just going to read from this last page. Okay, so in every yuga, an occupation according to one's nature generally brings happiness in this life and after death. This is the opinion. This is the opinion of experts in the Vedas. Note: it is better to perform one's own prescribed duty, though inferior, than the duties of others. According to the symptoms of higher and lower sections of society, there are different varieties of occupational duties. For example, if a tiger kills a man, this is not sinful. But if a man kills another man, this is sinful. What is a daily affair among the animals is a sinful act in human society. The Antajas are accustomed to stealing, drinking, and illicit sex, but that is not considered sinful for them. It's interesting, huh? So it depends also what, the results are, the more developed you are, then the more heavy the results you get for acting wrongly. There's like concession for according to one's nature, anyways, yeah, not concession, you understand it. So if one acts according to one's nature and gradually gives up those activities, he gradually attains the nishkam stage, which is freedom from material desires, and which is beyond the material modes. If an agricultural field is cultivated repeatedly, it becomes unsuitable for germinating seeds. Just as drops of ghee on a fire never extinguish the fire, but a flood of ghee will, overindulgence in lusty desires mitigates such desires entirely. So, I guess that means I should just party until I get sick of it, and then I'll give up the desire, right? No. Okay, note. Those who are too sinful and have thus been born in the lower classes are allowed to enjoy sinful activities fully, for thus there's a chance that these activities will become detestful to them, and they will get the opportunity to be purified. Okay. Varna is based on qualities, not birth. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above, even if one is born in a different class, one should be designated according to those symptoms. Wow, that is such an important verse. I'll just read the Sanskrit because it's so important. Yasya yal lakshanam proktam pungso varna bhivyanjakam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tat tenaiva vinirdishet. Note: if one who is born in a Brahman family doesn't have Brahminical qualifications, he is considered a Brahma Bandhu. Similarly, if one is born in a Shudra family, if one born in a Shudra family acquires the qualities of a Brahman, he should be accepted as a Brahman. Unless one is qualified in terms of the Brahminical symptoms, one cannot take sannyas. Alright, and so then yesterday we also read the duties of a brahmachari. So um, in the beginning of the previous chapter, verse 2, Yudhishthira asked Narad Muni about Varnashram. Then Narad described the Varnas in the previous chapter. Now onwards, he'll describe the ashrams. In 7.12, Narad describes the Brahmachari and Vānaprastha ashrams. In 7.13, he describes Sannyas ashram. And in 7.14 to 15, he describes the Grihastha ashram. Interesting how he does it in that order. First he explains Brahmachari, Vānaprastha, then Sannyas, and then in the last two chapters he'll describe Grihastha. Right, so the duties of a Brahmachari. The general duties of a Brahmachari student living in Gurukul. He should practice complete sense control, danta. He should act only for the benefit of Guru Hitam. He should be submissive to Guru like a servant. And he should have an attitude of firm friendship with the Guru. Guru Suhrida Sohrida. Sudrida Sohrida. Then the Brahmachari should worship the Guru, fire, sun, and Vishnu early in the morning and in the evening, while silently and attentively chanting the Gayatri mantra. The Brahmachari, being called by the Guru, should study the Vedic mantras regularly. And daily before and after studies, he should offer respects unto the Guru's feet. He should dress in deerskin garments, and a belt of straw, sacred thread, matted locks, and carry a pure kusha grass, a rod, and a water pot. Brahmachari should collect alms in the morning and evening and offer it to the Guru. And the Brahmachari should only eat if ordered by the Guru, and otherwise he should fast. A Brahmachari's conduct and dealings with women. Wait, what are we reading from? Reading from 11. Okay, we already read this yesterday. So this is the conduct of a Brahmachari with a woman. He should be well behaved. He should... Oh, sorry, no. This is just conduct of a Brahmachari in general. So he should be well behaved. He should control his eating. He should be industrious, faithful to the instruction of Guru and Shastra. He should be sense controlled, and he should interact with women or men. He should interact with women or men controlled by women only as much as necessary. And now these are the Brahmachari's interactions with women. A Brahmachari, one not accepted the Grihastha ashram must rigidly avoid talking with women or about women, for the senses are so powerful that they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi. Then there's a note here, Brihadvrata. The word Brihadvrata refers to a Brahmachari who has decided not to marry and observes strict celibacy, that is, not to indulge in sex throughout one's life. A young Brahmachari should not allow the young wife of Guru, if the Guru is married, to care for his hair, massage his body, or bathe him with motherly affection. Note, there are 7 kinds of mothers. One's original mother, the wife of the Guru, a Brahman's wife, a king's wife, a cow, nurse, and the earth. Thus, the Guru's wife may care for a disciple like a mother, but if both are young, such a mother cannot touch the Brahmachari. Why so much precaution about associating with women? The reason is because a woman is compared to fire, and a man is compared to a butter pot. So a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. One should associate with any woman only for important business, even if one is not alone. I didn't understand that even if one is not alone part. Anyways. Okay. As long... wait, what are we reading from? Okay, from 11. Okay, so we read this. As long as one is not self-realized, he cannot be relieved from the bodily conception, which is epitomized by the duality between man and woman. Thus, there is every chance of one's fall down due to bewildered intelligence. So now we're going to read some further details of the Brahmachari ashram, and then we'll read about Vānaprasthas. Hari Bol, Raseshwari Mataji, and Indira Mataji, Dandavat pranams to both of you. All right, let's go to Etat sarvam grihastasya samanatam yaterapi guru vrittir vikalpena grihastasyartokamina. I'm going to shut off this light. Translation. All the rules and regulations apply equally to the householder and the sannyasi. Am I in the right chapter? Yes, I am. The grihasta, however, is given permission by the spiritual master to indulge in sex during the period favorable for procreation. What's the period favorable for procreation? 1 second. Okay. What were the principles described in, what we just read? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is sometimes misunderstood that a grihasta, a householder, is permitted to indulge in sex at any time. This is a wrong conception of grihasta life. In spiritual life, whether one is a grihasta, Vānaprastha, Sannyasi, or Brahmachari, everyone is under the control of the spiritual master. For Brahmacharis and Sannyasis, there are strong restrictions on sexual indulgence. Similarly, there are strong restrictions for grihastas. Grihastas should indulge in sex life only in accordance with the order of the Guru. Therefore, it is mentioned here that one must follow the orders of the spiritual master, Guru Vrittir Vikalpena. When the spiritual master orders, the grihasta may accept sex life. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.11. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. Indulgence in sex life without disobedience to religious rules and regulations constitutes a religious principle. The grihasta is allowed to indulge in sex life during the period favorable for procreation and in accordance with the spiritual master's order. If the spiritual master's orders allow a grihasta to engage in sex life at a particular time, then the grihasta may do so. Otherwise, if the spiritual master orders against it, the grihasta should abstain. The grihasta must obtain permission from the spiritual master to observe the ritualistic ceremony of Garbhadhan Samskar. Then he may approach his wife to beget children, otherwise not. A Brahman generally remains a brahmachari throughout his entire life, but although some Brahmans become grihastas and indulge in sex life, they do so under the complete control of the spiritual master. The kshatriya is allowed to marry more than one wife, but this also must be in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master. It is not that because one is a grihasta, he may marry as many times as he likes and indulge in sex life as he likes. This is not spiritual life. In spiritual life, one must conduct one's whole life under the guidance of the Guru. Only one who executes his spiritual life under the direction of the spiritual master can achieve the mercy of Krishna. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasada. If one desires to advance in spiritual life, but he acts whimsically, not following the orders of the spiritual master, he has no shelter. Yasya prasadan na gati kutopi. Without the spiritual master's order, even the grihasta should not indulge in sex life. Anjana bhyanjanon marda stravale kang misham madhu sraganda le palankarangs tyajayurye brihadvrata. Brahmacharis are grihastas who have taken the vow of celibacy, as described above, should not indulge in the following: applying powder or ointment to the eyes. I don't do that, okay. Massaging the head with oil. Don't really do that. Massaging the body with the hands. Seeing a woman or painting of a woman's picture. Eating meat. Drinking wine. Decorating the body with flower garlands. Smearing scented ointment on the body. Or decorating the body with ornaments. These they should give up. Okay, let me... Ushitvaibam gurukule dijoditya trayim sangopanishadhang yavarartam yatha balam datva varam anugyato guru kamam yadishvara griham vanam pravishet pravrajet tatra vavaset. According to the rules and regulations mentioned above, one who is twice born, namely a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, should reside in the Gurukul under the care of the spiritual master. There he should study and learn all the Vedic literatures, along with their supplements and the Upanishads, according to his ability and power to study. If possible, the student or disciple should reward the spiritual master with the remuneration of the spiritual master requests. And then, following the master's order, the disciple should leave and accept one of the other ashrams, namely the Grihastha ashram, Vānaprastha ashram, or Sannyāsī ashram, as he desires. Okay, that's interesting. Never mind. Okay. Purport. To study the Vedas and understand them, of course, requires some special intelligence. But the members of the three higher sections of society, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, must learn the Vedic literatures according to their capability and power to understand. In other words, studying the Vedic literatures is compulsory for everyone, but the Shudras and it's compulsory for everyone, but the Shudras and Antyajas. The Vedic literature gives the knowledge that can lead one to the understanding of sorry guys. It can lead one to understand the absolute truth, Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Gurukul, or the reformatory educational institution, should be used only to understand Vedic knowledge. At the present time, there are many educational institutions for training and technology, but such knowledge has nothing to do with the understanding of the absolute. Technology, therefore, is meant for the Shudras, whereas the Vedas are meant for the Dvijas. Consequently, this verse states, Dvijo ditya vabhudya chatrayam sangopanishadam. At the present time, in the age of Kali, practically everyone is a Shudra, and no one is a Dvija. Therefore, the condition of society has very much deteriorated. Another point to be observed from this verse is that from the Brahmachari ashram, one may accept the Sannyāsī ashram, the Vānaprastha ashram, or Grihastha ashram. Wow, so somebody can just go straight from Brahmachari into Vānaprastha. That's interesting, huh? It is not compulsory for a Brahmachari to become a Grihastha. Because the ultimate aim is to understand the absolute truth, there is no necessity of going through all the different ashrams. Thus, one may proceed to the Sannyāsī ashram directly from the Brahmachari ashram. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted the Sannyāsī ashram directly from the Brahmachari ashram. In other words, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not think it compulsory to accept the Grihastha ashram or Vānaprastha ashram. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You couldn't go from Brahmachari to Vānaprastha, right? Because
you get a companion in your pilgrimages.
No, you just go straight to the woods, right? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Agno Gurav Atmani Cha Sarva Bhuteshvadokshajam Bhutai Svadham Abhipashyed Apravishtam Pravishtavat. One should realize that in the fire, in the spiritual master, in oneself, and in all living entities, in all circumstances and conditions, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, has simultaneously entered and not entered. He is situated externally and internally as the full controller of everything. Purport. Realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's omnipresence is the perfect realization of the absolute truth to be obtained through the study of the Vedic literatures. As stated in the Brahma Samhita 535, Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. The Lord is situated within the universe, within the heart of every living entity, and also within the atom. We should understand that whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present, He is present with all His paraphernalia, including His name, form, associates, and servants. The living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus one should understand that since the Supreme Lord has entered the atom, the living entities are also there. One must accept the inconceivable quality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for no one can understand from the material point of view how the Lord is all-pervasive and yet is situated in His own abode, Goloka Vrindavan. This realization is possible and strictly follows the regulated principles of āśrama, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vānaprastha, and Sannyāsī. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says in this regard, Apravishta sarvagata pravishta anurupam rupavam evang dvi-rupa bhagavan harir eko janardana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His original form, has not entered everything, pravishta, but in His impersonal He has entered, pravishta. Not entered everything, but in His impersonal form He has entered. Interesting. Thus, He has entered and not entered simultaneously. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, wherein the Lord says, Maya tatam idang sarvam jagaravyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. The Lord can divide Himself. Thus, there is variety in unity. Ekatvam bahutvam. Evam vido brahmacārī vānaprastho yatir grihi charan vidita vyagyana param brahma dikachati. By practicing in this way, whether one be in the Brahmachari ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vānaprastha ashram, or Sannyasi ashram, one must always realize the all-pervading presence of the Supreme Lord, for in this way it is possible to understand the absolute truth. Purport. This is the beginning of self-realization. One must first understand how Brahman is present everywhere and how he is acting. This education is called Brahma Jigyasa, and it is the real concern of human life. Without such knowledge, one cannot claim to be a human being. Rather, he remains in the animal kingdom. As it is said, Sa eva gokara. Without such knowledge, one is no better than a cow or an ass. Vānaprasthasya vakshyami niyaman muni sammatan yan astaya munir gacchir rishi lokam uhanjasa. O king, I shall now describe the qualifications for a Vānaprastha, one who is retired from family life. By rigidly following the rules and regulations for the Vānaprastha, one can easily be elevated to the upper planetary system known as Maharloka. Nakrishtapachyam ashniyad akrishtam chapya kalataha agnipakvam atamangva arkapakvam utaharet. A person in Vānaprastha life should not eat grains grown by tilling of the fields. He should also not eat grains that have grown without tilling of the fields, but are not fully ripe. Nor should a Vānaprastha eat grains cooked in fire. Indeed, he should eat only fruit ripened by the sunshine. So, looks like all Vānaprasthas have to be raw foodists. Vanyashcharo purodashan nirvapet kalakchoditan labdhe nave nave nadhe puranang cha paritajet. A Vānaprastha should prepare cakes to be offered in sacrifice from fruits and grains grown naturally in the forest. When he obtains some new grains, he should give up his old stock of grains. What do you do with the old stock of grains? You just throw them? Guess you donate them? Anyways. Okay. Agnyartam eva sharanam uttajam vadrikandaram shrayeta himavavyagni vaivagni varshar katapashat swayam. Varshar katapashat swayam. A Vānaprastha should prepare a thatched cottage or take shelter of a cave in a mountain only to keep the sacred fire, but he should personally practice enduring snowfall, wind, fire, rain, and the shining of the sun. Man, that's intense. Kesharoma nakashmashru malani jatilo dadhat kamandal ajine danda valkalagni parichadan. The Vānaprastha should wear matted locks of hair on his head and let his body hair, nails, and mustache grow. Ew. He should not cleanse his body of dirt. He should keep a water pot, deerskin, and rod, wear the bark of a tree as a covering, and use garments colored like fire. I wonder if there's any real proper Vānaprasthas in the world who actually follow all these. That'd be interesting to see, yeah? Charedvane dashabdan ashto va chaturo muni dvavikam vayata buddhir navipadeta krichrata. Being very thoughtful, a Vānaprastha should remain in the forest for 12 years, 8 years, 4 years, 2 years, or at least 1 year. But not 3 years or, or 5 years. Either 8, 4, 2, or 1 year. He should behave in such a way that he will not be disturbed or troubled by too much austerity. Well, that's all sounded like a lot of austerity so far. Anyways, but he should behave in such a way that he will not be disturbed or troubled by too much austerity, okay? Does that mean you should just deal with it? Yada kalpa sakriyayam vyadivir jarayatava anvikshit kyam vavidyayam kuryad anashanadikam. When, because of disease or old age, one is unable to perform his prescribed duties for advancement in spiritual consciousness or study of the Vedas, he should practice fasting, not taking any food. Atmanyagnin samaropya sanyasyaham mamatmatam karaneshu nyaset samyak sanghatam tu yatarhata. He should properly place the fire element in his own self, and in this way give up bodily affinity, by which one thinks the body to be oneself or one's own. One should gradually merge the material body into the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Purport. The body is an effect of a cause, namely the 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. In other words, one should know perfectly well that the material body is nothing but a combination of the 5 elements. This knowledge constitutes merging of the material body and the 5 material elements. Merging into Brahman in perfect knowledge means understanding perfectly that one is not the body, but a spiritual soul. Ke kani vayoni nishvasanks tejasushma namatmavan apsvarsarik shleshma puyani Kshito shesham yatod bhavan. A sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by the air. The heat of the body is caused by fire, and semen, blood, and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances, like skin, muscle, and bone, are caused by earth. And in this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by the various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Purport. To be self-realized, one must understand the original sources of the various elements of the body. The body is a combination of skin, bone, muscle, blood, semen, urine, stool, heat, breath, and so on, which all come from the earth, water, fire, air, and sky. One must be well conversant with the sources of all the bodily constituents. Then one becomes a self-realized person, or Atmavan, one who knows the self. Vacham agno savaktavyam indri shilpam karavapi padani gatyavayasi ratyopastam prajapato mrityo payung visargam cha yatastanam vinirdishet dikshu shrotram sanadena sparshenadhyatmani tvacham Rupani chakshusha rajan jyotisha abhiniveshayet apsu prachetasa jivam greyar granam kshito nyaset. Thereafter, the object of speech, along with the sense of speech, the tongue, should be bestowed upon fire. Craftsmanship and the two hands should be given to the demigod Indra. The power of movement and the legs should be given to Lord Vishnu. Sensual pleasure, along with the genitals, should be bestowed upon Prajapati. The rectum, with the power of evacuation, should be bestowed in its proper place unto Mrityu. The oral instrument, along with sound vibration, should be given to the deities presiding over the directions. The instrument of touch, along with the sense objects of touch, should be given to Vayu. Form, with the power of sight, should be bestowed upon the sun. The tongue, along with the demigod Varuna, should be bestowed upon water. And the power of smell, along with the two Ashwini Kumar demigods, should be bestowed upon the earth. Oh god, I'm getting so tired. What time is it? 15 more minutes, okay. Mano manoratashchandre buddhim badhyay kavo pare karmanyadhyatmana rudre yad aham mamata kriya satvena chitam kshetragye gunar vaikarikam pare apsukshiptam apo jyotishyadavayo nabhasyamun kutaste tachamahati tar avyakte kshare chatat. Oh Krishna. The mind, along with all desires, should be merged in the moon demigod. All the subject matters of intelligence, along with the intelligence itself, should be placed in Lord Brahma. False ego, which is under the influence of the material mode of nature, and which induces one to think, I am this body, and everything connected with this body is mine. So that false ego should be merged along with material activities in Rudra, the predominating deity of false ego. Material consciousness, along with the goal of thought, should be merged in the individual living being. And the demigods, acting under the modes of material nature, should be merged, along with the perverted living being, into the supreme being. The earth should be merged in water, water in the brightness of the sun, this brightness into the air, the air into the sky into the false ego into the total material energy into the unmanifested ingredients, the Pradhan feature of the material energy, and at last the ingredient feature of material manifestation into the Supersoul. Ityaksharatayatmatnam chinmatram avasheshitam gyatva dvayotapviramed dagdayo nir-ivanala. When all the material designations have thus merged into the respective material elements, the living beings, who are all ultimately completely spiritual, being one in quality with the Supreme Being, should cease from material existence, as flames cease when the wood in which they are burning is consumed. When the material body is returned to its various material elements, only the spiritual being remains. This spiritual being is Brahman, and it is equal in quality with Para-Brahman. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 12th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes. Alright, so now it's time we're going to do the first 6 verses of chapter 13. Chapter 13, the behavior of a perfect person. Okay, this 13th chapter describes the regulative principles for sannyasis and also describes the history of an avadut. It concludes with a description of perfection for the student in spiritual advancement. Shri Narad Muni has been describing the symptoms of various ashrams and varnas. Now, in this chapter, he specifically describes the regulative principles to be followed by sannyasis. After retiring from family life, one should accept the status of Vānaprastha, in which he must formally accept the body as a means of existence, but gradually forget the bodily necessities of life. After Vānaprastha life, having left home, one should travel to different places as a sannyasi. Without bodily comforts and free from dependence on anyone or with respect to bodily necessities, one should travel everywhere, wearing almost nothing, or actually walking naked. Without association with ordinary human society, one should beg alms and always be satisfied in himself. One should be a friend to every living entity and be very peaceful in Krishna consciousness. A sannyasi should travel alone in this way, not caring for life or death, waiting for the time when he will leave his material body. He should not invent necessary books or adopt professions like astrology, nor should he try to become a great orator. He should also give up the path of unnecessary argument and should not depend on anyone under any circumstances. He should not try to allure people into becoming his disciples just so that the number of his disciples may increase. He should give up the habit of reading many books as a means of livelihood, and he should not attempt to increase the number of temples and mats or monasteries. Interesting. When a sannyasi thus becomes completely independent, peaceful, and equipoised, he can select the destination he desires after death and follow the principles by which to reach that destination. Although fully learned, he should always remain silent, like a dumb person, and travel like a restless child. In this regard, Narad Muni described a meeting between Prahlad and a saintly person who had adopted the mode of life of a python. In this way, he described the symptoms of a Paramahamsa. A person who has attained the Paramahamsa stage knows very well the distinction between matter and spirit. He is not at all interested in gratifying the material senses, for he is always deriving pleasure from devotional service to the Lord. He is not very anxious to protect his material body. Being satisfied with whatever he attains by the grace of the Lord, he is completely independent of material happiness and distress, and thus he is transcendental to all regulative principles. Sometimes he accepts severe austerities, and sometimes he accepts material opulence. His only concern is to satisfy Krishna, and for that purpose he can do anything and everything without reference to the regulative principles. He is never to be equated with the materialistic men. He is never to be equated with materialistic men, nor is he subject to the judgments of such men. Shri Narad Uvacha Kalpastvayam Kalpastvayam Parivrajya Dehamatra Vasheshita Gramaika Ratravidhina Nirapekshascharan Mahim. Sri Narad Muni said, a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections, and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. And this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyasi should travel all over the world. Bibriyadhyasavasa Kopina chadanam param tyaktam na lingadana dandadir anyat kinchid anapadi. A person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should only be a loincloth. And when there is no necessity, a sannyasi should not even accept a danda. A sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and kamandalu. Eka eva chared bhikshur atmarama napashraya sarvabhuta surichanto narayana parayana. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on alms begged from door to door. Not being dependent on any person or any place, he should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings, and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayan. In this way, he should move from one place to another. Pashiratmanyado vishvam parisarasato ye atmanam cha parang brahma sarvatra sarasanmaye. The sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything, and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. Supti probadayo sandhav atmano gatematmadrik pashyam bandhang cha mokshang cha maya matram navastuta. During unconsciousness and consciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. Purport. The unconscious state is nothing but ignorance, darkness, or material existence, and in the conscious state, one is awake. The marginal state, between consciousness and unconsciousness, has no permanent existence. Therefore, one who is advanced in understanding the self should understand that unconsciousness and consciousness are but illusions, for they fundamentally do not exist. Only the Supreme Absolute Truth exists, as confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Maya tatam idang sarvam jagar avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Everything exists on the basis of Krishna's impersonal feature. Nothing can exist without Krishna. Therefore, the advanced devotee of Krishna can see the Lord everywhere without illusion. Na bhinande dhruvam mrityum adhruvam vasya jivitam kalam parang pratiksheta bhutanam prabhavapyayam. Since the material body is sure to be vanquished and the duration of one's life is not fixed, neither death nor life is to be praised. Rather, one should observe the eternal time factor in which the living entity manifests himself and disappears. Purport. Let's see, is there anything after this? No. Okay, so we're ending with this purport. Okay. Purport. The living entities in the material world, not only at the present, but also in the past, have been involved in trying to solve the problem of birth and death. Some stress death and points to the illusory existence of everything material, whereas others stress life, trying to preserve it perpetually and enjoy it to the best of their ability. Both of them are fools and rascals. It is advised that one observe the eternal time factor, which is the cause of the material body's appearance and disappearance, and that one observe the living entity's entanglement in this time factor. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore sings in his Gitavali, Anadi karama phale poribhavar nava jale tori bare na dekhi upai. One should observe the activities of eternal time, which is the cause of birth and death. Before the creation of the present millennium, the living entities were under the influence of the time factor, and within the time factor, the material world comes into existence and is again annihilated. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. Being under the control of the time factor, the living entities appear and die, life after life. This time factor is the impersonal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives the living entities conditioned by material nature a chance to emerge from this nature by surrendering unto Him. Alright, so that's our reading for today. Tomorrow we'll read a few more things about the nature of Sannyasi. And then what else are we reading tomorrow? Sorry guys, I got a little bit, started getting a little bit, anyways. Also read the conversation between Prahlad and an Avadut Brahman. Alright. It's a good question, Manjari. Yes. It's absurd. Oh, Haribol Champak Didi. And whoever is watching on Facebook. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Davik Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Prasad Vrinda ki jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai Sarva Abhishta Bhadatta Giriraj Maharaj ki jai Shri Radha Kund Shama Kuni Managanga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Hari Bo. Yes, that's a good question, Manjari. Alright, Dandavat pranams everybody. Hari Krishna. See you tomorrow for the rest of... let's see what we're going to read tomorrow really quickly. Going to read the rest of the Sannyas. Okay, so we're going to read the other qualities of a Sannyasi. And then Prahlad Maharaj meets a Brahmin and inquires from him. The Brahmin glorifies Prahlad Maharaj. The Brahmin then describes the futility of material happiness, the two gurus of the Brahmin, a bee and a python, and the lifestyle of an avadut Brahmin, habits of eating, dressing, sleeping, and traveling, giving up the material body and self-realization. Right, so that's what we're going to be reading about tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe, Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranams, Indira Mataji, Manjari Prajumna Madhavi Didi, Champakalata Mataji, Gargaraji, so many devotees. Rasteshwari Mataji, Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranams. Alright,